Good. So welcome back, Katerina.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the singing bowls. When did you get started? What piqued your interest about singing bowls?
I think that I've always been surrounded by music. My grandmother was an operetta singer. I love to sing in choir, and I always had this deep interest in frequency and resonance, and I was always completely mesmerized by it. I think my actual interest probably started with water, because water also has a frequency. I would say everything has a frequency. Now, actual singing bowls, I've been playing for about three years. Not eons and eons. I started off by just liking the sound and really connecting people to breath and enabling them to go into their subconscious states through breath work. And the singing bowls enable people to go past their I want to say, their regulatory system that keeps them into fight or flight. Because the sound, to me, is like water flowing over you. It puts you into a deeper, calmer beta or theta state, where you are able to access those deeper recesses of your mind. And in connection to breath work, I found it extremely beneficial. I started doing a lot of sound baths for myself and for my family during COVID. I've been using tuning forks for many years. I think tuning forks is the one thing that I always encourage all of my the sound bath participants and the community members that grace my presence and enable me to do this. I encourage them all to have tuning forks, because you can simply hit them and put them like on top of your head or on body parts. I encourage everyone to also learn some mantras with some mudras, because fundamentally it's not the singing bowl. Like, everyone talks about singing bowls like, oh yeah, we need to do a sound bath. And I love sound baths, right? But sound baths is one modality in a giant spectrum in my mind, where fundamentally we all have a singing bowl, and that singing bowl is in our chest. And it's not about the quality of your voice. It's not. It's about the resonance. And you can use the tuner just like for the singing bowls. And you notice that even if you were to turn on a tuner, which ironically is on over there, for example, most people, when they speak in a G. And a G is the throat chakra, right? So you're actually speaking. Most people do speak in the throat, right? So we do naturally, we have this beautiful tuning system within our body when we are in a calm and relaxed state. And as soon as you question or you're anxious, you go out of your throat chakra. So I've literally done this where for hours I've put the tuner in front of me and I've spoken, and I've done it when I'm upset, and I will literally see what's happening to me. And then you can almost predict or assess where you are at or why you're getting upset. And the bowls are the same thing. The reason I'm so fascinated with the bowls is because the bowls are, they're kind of like tarot cards. I don't want to say they're tarot cards. They are like a tool, like they are a chakra-based tool that shows you where we as people, where the world, where the earth is at in that particular moment. So, for example, for me, I tune the bowls and I know what the bowls are supposed to be at. I play them. And then when, for example, like the throat is off or the third eye is off, then I know that most people have been struggling with certain aspects in their lives based on what is off. And so what the reason I want to tune the bowls is because I want to tune them so that the more harmonized, correct, and natural frequency is going through everyone, which is harmonizing them, balancing them, creating harmony within their body, within their cells. And then those people will be more harmonized, and they will go out into the world and they will speak their truth with their amazing internal bowl, and they will actually harmonize others. So part of the reason I'm really into singing bowls and sound baths and workshops where it's connection with breath and sound and community is because when we gather and we harmonize, we create and we co-create, and then it's like ripples in a pond. It's like you throw it in and it ripples out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I understand, we do believe that we all have a frequency that we operate at. We're energetic beings. We have energy that flows through us. And when we are around someone who has a calm energy, who is at that frequency, we also begin to change the frequency that we are at.
Yes.
Right? Especially if that one is closer to the calm energy. But we also we can also go the other way too. Like if you are with a really anxious person rather, you could take on that energy or that frequency and start to feel anxious yourself. But I think when you have that, when it's in tune, the way that you're doing it, correct me if I'm wrong, there is a tendency for people around you to want that. And that's where you're going to go because that's where you want to be.
Yes. And I think what happens is I always say that we are like a violin and that we are being played by the world, and the world puts us out of frequency. And having a sound bath, sitting there for half an hour doing breath work, singing a mantra, or with like even in your car while you're driving, you're actually tuning yourself up so that it's almost like a violin. If your violin has been sitting in the attic for decades and no one's played it, you will tune it up, it'll go out of tune right away because the wood has been not flexed and not stretched, and the tension is not, you're just not used to being at that tension and that frequency. But as soon as your instrument is being tuned on a regular basis, it will want to stay within that range. Mm-hmm. And I would say that it's almost works the same way, like you know how to protect that bubble around you, how to protect yourself, but you also know how to shoot your intentions out into the world because you are in harmony with nature and yourself. I really like the analogy of the violin, especially if you think about it like a fiddle that hasn't been played, and if no one's taught you how to do it.
Yeah, it takes practice. And one of the things that Yogi Amrit Desai says is that your natural state is actually a state of meditation. That is your natural state. And I love your violin explanation because it shows when you're not in that state, it's hard to stay in the natural state. But the thing is, the more you do it, the easier it becomes and the quicker you are able to access that frequency or that meditation or whatever it may be.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I mean, I find that if you do like breath work and resonance with sound bowls, it's very similar to what people would get with like in microdosing, because it enables them to, again, I want to say like all things are related. Like there are so many ways of accessing these modalities, right? Like I personally go to like Lynn Valley Headwaters and I do breath work. I go into the water And the natural current has a frequency. The nature has a frequency, and it will recharge me. I can sit in the car in the middle of traffic singing. I usually do like Satanama or Satnam, like truth be by thy name. And I will literally on my hands do the mudra with it. And I can come from the most chaotic, energy sucking thing and show up and be so calm. I didn't have to take a class. I think that we are so used to technology helping us, so people will listen to things like binaural beats, and which is fine. That's a good way. But I really want people to like learn how to hone in that state within themselves.
Yeah.
Like in a less techie way, because technology has limitations. Like you can have the top end, for example, you could do a sound bath on a Woozer vest. I don't know if you know what that is.
No, can you?
I have one, so if you ever want to come and try, you can come and try. So a Woozer vest is a gaming vest that goes, I think, up to 520 hertz. And there is this one group of people who created a sound bath, like literally a sound bath that's plugged in, and you can put the vest on, put the headphones on, and experience a sound bath up to the hertz level within that vest. I'd have to look up what the exact hertz is. It's the best that is currently available on the market. However, when you do a sound bath, I think I go up to 960 with one of them. So the range in a natural setting, in a natural state, is much deeper and much larger. And I think that's why when like I have had legitimate transformative visions in a sound bath meditation state, I feel like it's easier to access when you have, and that does not mean you have to go to a sound bath every single week to get your bliss. I mean, to me, it's about taking a walk, sitting under a tree, leaning your back against, something that's supporting you and that's grounding you.
Yeah.
And letting it go. And if you need to really scream at the beginning and then go into a mantra or a mudra or a breath work, then do it. But I find you don't have to, not if you're grounded, not if you start. But taking classes like that is really vital. But I do want to say the reason I show the tuning is because during COVID, most of COVID, I want to say all of COVID, but I don't want to sound like I'm 100% right because I didn't check every single day. I'm gonna use the F bowl or the grounding bowl was off for literally 4 years. It was completely off, and it didn't go off as in it was too high and I could add water and then make the frequency and the vibration go down to the correct hertz. My bowl, I've checked 3 different sets. All of them were off, but they were below the baseline, which means that I couldn't add water.
No, I was going to ask. So how do you tune that? Or do you? Or you don't?
You can't. All you can do is tune everything else. So I would do entire sound baths without using the F. The reason I did that was because I guess my philosophy is that if I am playing something and it's off, then I am encouraging you to be off, to be in disharmony. And I want to, and in my mind, it's kind of like if we keep... I'm going to use the violin as an analogy. I don't know if you've ever tuned a violin.
No.
I feel like pulling one out just to show you. There's about 5 violins in my house. It's like, so violins, unlike guitars, unlike the other string instruments, they have macro tuners and micro tuners. So the macro turners is what's on the base of the violin where you have the four knobs. So you would put in your instrument and you would tune the large one. And then at the very base, there's these tiny little dot knobs and you turn them and that tunes it like to the, you know, the decibel point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, it's like you can do you can do personal work and you can do breath work and sound healing and you can take time and you can unplug your phone and you can walk in nature and you can ground yourself and you can eat good nutritious food and you can do detox and intermittent fasting and you can do all of these things, but you need to get eventually to the micro tuners. And that's what adding water to a sound bowl or realizing like what is microscopically off enables you to tune the other parts of yourself. Now, what I can tell you about a violin is that if I'm having trouble tuning one note, like let's say the F, the ground, if I tune the other ones perfectly, it'll be easier to tune the one that is off.
Right. I think my question that I was going to ask around that is if the F, the grounder, is off and you just play the other ones around it, will it, because you said that it makes it easier for them to, will it fix the F? Or
during a regular sound bath, I would tell you that it would. Like if you have a bunch of participants and sometimes I can literally feel that someone's struggling with like speaking. There's been times where it's always like, let's say the throat is off and I test it and I literally, I'll start my sound bath saying, so just so everyone's aware, the G is off, the throat chakra is off. If you've had trouble speaking your truth or communicating to your loved ones, perhaps you could make that your intention. I feel like there's a lot of issues around the throat. It could have also been that you're sick. I'm not sure what it is, but I know that is off. Now, what happens is that even when I tune it, and if it's still like a bit finicky, once I do the clearing and we kind of go through all the sequences in the chakras, you can feel it usually after about 20 to 30 minutes where suddenly everything is in harmony. Mm-hmm. And the bowls will like vibrate louder, more intensely. Like you can feel them like going through you. Mm-hmm. Now that said, during COVID, it didn't matter what I did.
Right. They were just off.
It was off. It didn't matter. I remember very distinctly the very first time where it was off and it was off and it was off. And then suddenly I sat down and there was this one moment and I did it and suddenly I could tune the F. And I suddenly had this, I was like, what has just happened? I thought I needed to get a new F bowl. And I went and I did a sound bath in one location and then I drove all the way across the city and I did another one somewhere else. And it was in tune again. And I could tune it. And then suddenly I saw, I want to say, a quantum shift in the people around me. And I started to see changes. And then for the next 2 weeks, it was off. It was off again. Couldn't tune it. I couldn't tune it. Then it went back on. With each like new moon, it started to tune up. And then I was like, what's going on? Now it's been fine. It's gone. That period is left.
Right.
I don't have a deep explanation except I can tell you what I observed.
Right. And
what I feel like the ground was falling out from most people's feet.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So I was going to move and say, let's talk about the incorporation of breath work and the sound healing. Tell me a little bit about how you got into breath work.
I think I've always been into breath work because I was, I did cycling when I was quite young and I used to do all these cycling tours all over. So I think what got me onto breath work was I had high anxiety. And I realized that I could learn to completely control my breath while I was in like cycling, and if I lost control, I would lose power, I would lose energy, I would completely lose sense of myself. So I've never thought of it until you've asked me right now. But that was really the first time I used to control my breath. And I remember because I really struggled during these trips. And I remember this one trip, we went up Mount Constitution, and I remember all the entire team of people said, "How did you do that? You don't even look like you were trying." And it's just because I was trying to just go super slow. It was just slow, right? So parasympathetic nervous system.
Exactly.
Right. And then I've always done breath work. I mean, truthfully, I've always done like intermittent nostril breathing. I used to do it at night before going to bed. I always would try to slow down my breath rate. I took several courses on breath work about 3 years ago. And then I kept exploring further and further. During sound baths, I find most people, I'm very, very cautious about the length of time that people do breath work. I feel that there are a lot of programs out there about holotropic breath and intense deep sessions. And I'm personally like very nervous about doing these deep sessions during a sound bath. I want people to feel in control of themselves. So I usually start off, if I have anyone in the class who's never had a sound bath with me, I call it a samurai breath, which is really, I got that term from the book Breath.
Yeah.
And it's really like, I just encourage people to breathe as slowly as they can, all with their nose, in and out.
Right.
Then if I'm getting people a second time and the third time, then I'll do a pranayama or like even circular breathing, right?
Yeah.
But I find that if I can stop talking, which is I'm doing a lot of talking right now, but if I'm not talking during a sound bath, the focus is I just keep bringing people back to their breath over and over again. And I usually do that for like about the first half, where it's like it's about sound and the frequency. They've already had the chocolate, because I make my own chocolate before the sound bath. That'll open up the throat chakra, especially when it's pure chocolate made from the bean. It's almost like slightly berry minty without. It's very interesting when you have pure chocolate like that. Like with less process and refinement. And then I just focus on people extending their breath, and I just encourage them as much as possible to listen to their own intuition and to their own body rhythm, because your body is such an intelligent design. Your body knows, your mind knows what it needs. Like, they don't need me to tell them. No. They really don't. I just think of myself as a facilitator, where I create the correct sound. I make the beautiful chocolate. I make the beautiful magnesium, body butter. I get them to all ground in, and I give them like extra little bits, like weighted blankets and bean bags on their hands, or anything that'll just ground them if I see a little bit of anxiety. I just see it like I try to give people open like chest poses, where they are really able to breathe and feel lighter. And other than that, I just try to like just do the breath work so that they are capable of doing this on their own. So they realize how much power they have. I remind people through the breath that we can't control anything. Nothing. But we can control our breath.
We can control our breath.
Everything else we can't control. We can't, actually.
Yeah. You've really found a sweet spot, I think, when it comes to offering workshops with, your handcrafted chocolate, your wild forage tea, the breath work, the sound bath. It really creates an incredible healing experience. And you mentioned visions before, but also a very spiritual experience for people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The visions are 100% spiritual. Like, it's more like seeing what you need to see, feel what you need to feel.
Yeah.
You need to, in all honesty, I feel like a lot of practitioners need to shut their own ego and their own things that are going on and let the healing begin within each participant.
Yeah.
Because there's so much noise, yeah.
We're in our society, we are just told to stuff everything down. Don't cry. Don't laugh too loud. Don't, and as women, we're told even more than anyone else to, if we have anxiety and we panic, oh, look, she's just being hysterical, or, if we cry too much, oh, you're just too emotional. But so we live in a society, because I'm bringing this up because you said, feel free to feel, or learning to feel. And that's what we need to do. We have to remember how to feel again.
Yes.
And when we can feel those feelings in a really safe environment, in a safe way, then we reduce the amount of trauma that we have. And we have more access to spirit and source.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. But I think it's also like most of these circles, I always get the 2 or 3 token men, but most of the time it's women, right? Yeah. And the thing is that women think differently from men. We don't know how to turn things off. Men have their boxes and everything is separated and everything has a place. And then there's this one therapist I love. He always says that men have this nothing box in the middle where they can just go whenever they want, versus women, it's like this giant mess of wires, right? They're going zzz, and everything's connected and everything's unified and everything is related to the other thing. And then you always see a million different ways that every situation can go. And we don't know how to turn it off. And then because we're more in a state of fight or flight, or we're in a state of panic, and we're always trying to make sure that everyone's okay, but very seldom is anyone checking in with themselves to see if
they're okay.
They are okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I would like to see more men coming to these things.
Oh.
I think it would be great.
Yes. My husband is training right now. He is training with me, and he has decided that he wants to do sound baths.
Beautiful.
So I'm very excited that he will draw more men in.
I love that.
Right?
Yeah, I love that. And since we're on the topic of spirit and spirituality, and we've kind of segued into there, a question that I didn't ask you last time, and I like to ask all my guests, is what does spirituality mean to you? What does it mean to be a spiritual being?
That's a big question. That's a huge question. To me, spirituality is just linked to truth. And frequency, and everything just being related to the truthful energy that surrounds us. Now, I personally, I would say that I have many levels within spirituality. I would say that to be spiritual is to know the art of enjoying the moment, to know the art of nothingness.
Yeah, be here now.
Yes, it took me many, many decades to learn how to be present in the moment. My light just turned off, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It took me many decades, because I used to live fundamentally in the past.
As most people do.
Because of the memories of my childhood and the trauma. And I used to always remember, and I even have it in all of my yearbooks, where it would, like, my friends would say, like, everyone said, like, my saying was in Czechoslovakia, like everything was a memory. And then I had a boyfriend, a fiance, die on me when I was in my very early 20s. And before that, I was deeply living in the future. I was always planning the next step, the next phase, the next thing. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? We had all these plans. And then suddenly I turned around one day and I was, again, deeply embedded in the past. And it was the immediate past. It wasn't like the deep, far past. And it honestly took me down to a very, very dark place. And I had to learn to live in the future, and to live in the future, the present. And to live in the present when you're in that state or fight or flight, it's extremely painful to go there.
Yeah.
So I always think, to me, to be spiritual is the art of trying to be in the present.
Yeah.
Of enjoying and validating everything that is happening at the time. And if that means that you've got some toe fungus going on, then focus on the toe fungus. I don't care what you're focusing on, but focus on something that is real. Yeah. So like yesterday I went to a market, and I'm always focused on, like, what am I going to make today? What energetic power am I going to bring to this meal, to this moment? We say grace before every single meal, whether that's just saying what you're grateful for, or you can use the G word. It's up to you what you want to use. Alpha, Omega, the Almighty, whatever you want to use, Yahweh, whatever. And so we try to eat all our dinners by candlelight, so that there's no technology, no light. It's just warm, really infrared light. I always try to say grace, because energetically, we know we can prove this, that we can, if you put your intention on something and you're grateful, that substance now has more benefits. And I find that the more grateful I am, the more present I am, the more within the moment I am, the less I need.
Right. I get it. Yeah, I see what I understand what you're trying to say. Yeah.
But the less food I need, the less acknowledgement or recognition from others I need.
You're more fulfilled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, that's spirituality. Now, that said, I was raised Roman Catholic. And then I got quite upset at the church in my 20s. Wrote a couple choice letters with choice words to people. And then I was, we lived in Asia, and I became like a Buddhist, and then I became a Taoist. And excuse me, the dog is barking. And then we moved back here, and spirituality to me is in everything and everyone, and it includes everything and everyone. But that said, like, I also go to church, and to me that's a spiritual relationship that I have personally. And for me to find as many ways that I can, where I can express myself with people in song. For me, it's all about song. And I will walk through the forest and I will sing. And when I do a sound bath in a park, I feel the chorus of the birds joining me, and I feel like I'm united with nature. So to me, it's always about song.
Beautiful.
even when I have a cold.
That's all right. Okay. Well, Katerina, thank you so much for being here again today. I really appreciate you taking the time for our part 2 of our interview. I'm so glad we got to talk about the sound baths and sound healing. I think it's a really important time for sound healing. I think it's getting really popular now, and people are really coming out to see what it has to offer them. And well, I do hope to see you again soon. And you did say you did let us know about some stuff that was coming up. And I do want to let our viewers know that Katerina and I are teaming up. And we are going to be doing a bunch of offerings as well, which you can find on my website at www.wellnesswithrani.ca, or with Mila Earth as well. I'm sure she's got some links on there.
Yeah, and I try to do as many, I want to say accessible gatherings as possible, so that even if people are just questioning and they're not sure if they want to do something, then I do this like open house night on Thursdays for June, so people can pop in. Of course, the offering that we're doing together is also on a Thursday, so then I will not be at home for that. I will be with you. But I think it's really an important time. It's a critical time in society right now to connect with our community, to raise our frequency, to listen to our hearts and our minds, and to connect, and all of that can be done through many different modalities. But my thing is with the tuning of the sound bowls is that if more people are doing that, then that would be a fantastic step in increasing this modality and enabling more people to be harmonized, or like a violin, beautifully tuned up. And I think that if more people did that, then if they were more tuned up, then I suspect that there would be a lot of change in the world, and a lot more empathy and caring and love and less judgment, right?
Yeah.
Like,
beautiful. Well, let's end up on that note. What a beautiful way to end. So again, thank you so much, Katerina, for being on the show, and hopefully we will see you again soon.